here we have the BMW F750GS, the slightly smaller version of the 850GS, both of which were introduced for 2019. It's a completely new, built from the ground up motorcycle, and the easiest thing to do when looking at a completely updated motorcycle is to compare it to its predecessor. And here is where we come across a small problem. Its predecessor was the F700GS. It's been around for more than 10 years and it has thousands of customers. The other thing is I know I've ridden one. I remember riding it. And, well, if I recall, it had a seat and it had handlebars, and I think it came in green. And okay, to be fair, I don't remember it. I don't actually remember what it was like to ride, and that's weird because it doesn't necessarily mean it was bad. If it was bad, I'd remember it. Likewise, if it was really good, I'd remember it. It was just perfectly vanilla. And as I said, it had thousands of customers, and I'm pretty sure they were pretty content. But at the same time, they couldn't really brag at parties either. So, does the 750 also leave me in a state of oblivion, or does it actually leave a mark? Firstly, we must point out that while the 850 is geared more towards the off-road, this is more kind of on-road adventure. I mean, for example, it's got alloy wheels, not spoked, the front wheels are 19-inch, rear wheels are 17-inch, and it's got suspension that, while nice and cushy here on a tar road, I wouldn't want to hit a whoop section with. Still, I quite like it. Like the previous 800 and 700 versions, both the 750 and 850 motorcycles share an 853cc parallel twin motor, and the reason for this is a case of working better, not harder. BMW wanted to make two different models, one with more power, one with less. And they could have made two engines, one with smaller pistons, but then they'd have to hire more engineers, more designers, get them all secretaries, give them coffee, set up a whole other production line. It's a lot of money, it's a lot of faff. So instead, give both bikes the same engine, head down to IT, and just tell the IT guy to tune the one to make less power, kind of like an 850 in D mode. But then there's another problem. They can't call one the 850GS and the other the 850 slightly dull. No, so what they do instead is they call the other a 750GS. Ah, clever thinking. Compared to its predecessor, there's not much of an improvement on max power. The 700 pushed 75 horsepower, whereas the 750 comes in at a staggering 77 horsepower. It does make more headway with torque. That's boosted from 77 Nm to 83. However, that's not its main party trick. The 700 also had a parallel twin, but it had a regular firing order, so it just went boom, 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 boom. Now, in theory, that means it makes more power, but it's also more predictable, more smooth. The sound it makes is a bit of a hum, and it's just a bit dull. For this bike, they've joined the ranks of nearly all the other parallel twins and given it an irregular firing order. With that, it has also received a ride-by-wire throttle and all the bells and whistles. So while the max power isn't much more than before, up until then... Honestly, it's amazing what they've done. They've twisted the crank slightly and given this bike a soul. It's given it living DNA. It actually feels like it wants to be part of it. It makes a great sound, it's got a great feeling, and instead of just being something that performs the function of propulsion, it's like an organic part of the ride. Also, it gives it a hell of a lot more mid-range. So we couldn't get a 700 to be part of this. Unfortunately, we couldn't get hold of one. But if we had gotten one and done a roll-on, I'm pretty sure this would have walked away. There's more to this new bike than just a motor. The frame has moved from a steel trellis to a monocoque cradle. It's also been raked out slightly to make it more stable. And then there's the new position of the tank. Previously, you had a giant tank of highly flammable gas under your bum. Now instead, you've got a tank of highly flammable gas between your legs. What could possibly go wrong? Yeah, alright, the 850 is faster than this, it really is. But with all its off-road, big wheels and suspension and all that, I think on a road like this, it would have been quite a bit of work. It would have to lug it around, it wouldn't give you the confidence, whereas this is smaller, it's lighter, it's nippier, it's comfortable, it's confidence-inspiring. You just feel like you can wring its neck, you can fling it through corners. On a road like this, this bike is better. You'll have so much more fun on a bike like this. Also, I mean, the 850 is faster. This isn't exactly slow. I mean, BMW claimed that the top speed of this bike is 190 kilometers per hour, whereas a friend of mine kind of said that he saw 208 on the clock. A friend of mine, definitely. Not me, a friend. Like every modern-day ground-based space station, the 750 has every electronic gadget you can imagine, including cornering ABS and traction control. But some of these gadgets work better than others. And then they've got this so-called screen. Now, I know they've kind of styled it to be more sort of commuter-ish, but it's not really a screen. It's just a piece of plastic sort of stuck in the front there. It is a GS after all. Couldn't they have just given it a little bit of height? I mean, this does deflect some wind, but a lot of it hits you. And I think over a very long journey, that could get really annoying. Come on, BM, just a bit more height. Although I'm sure you can probably raid the catalogs, and there'll be something there. So, how exactly do we sum up this bike? It's not completely off-road, although it can handle the odd bit of gravel, but it's a laugh on the tar. It does everything you want it to do in true BMW fashion. However, here's the thing. If anyone had asked me about the previous 700, I would have had to kind of make up something on the spot and then quickly change the subject. Whereas if someone asked me now, what is the 750GS like to ride? I'd look them straight in the eye and say, very good. As far as I'm concerned, mission accomplished.
Well, as usual, that was a pretty good piece there from Don. And lads, I feel at a little bit of a disadvantage here because you have both ridden this new bike and I haven't. So I don't really know how I'm supposed to contribute. Well, I mean, is it much better than the bike it replaces, I suppose, is the major question.
Give us your thoughts on the previous 700.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I know, listen, I know I've ridden it. I have ridden it, but I just can't really remember it.
Exactly. Harry, what did you think of the 700?
I like the new 750.
No, this is sort of my point. I mean, the 700, put all the kind of objective functionality sort of bits to it, and very good bike, but it's not really your sort of travel companion, you know, your sort of soulful friend. None of that kind of stuff. Whereas this, on the other hand, this 750, and it's largely only to do with that firing order. I mean, just changing the firing order just changes absolutely everything. I know you was commenting on something like that also.
Oh, flipping out. I mean, when the 700 and the 800 came out, it was actually my least favourite bike of all because of the engine.
Yes,
it was
just
dull. It had power,
it
did what it needed to do, but it was just nothing. Whereas this is a completely different kettle of fish. It's amazing.
Oh yeah, completely.
Well, I have to say, I'm feeling a little bit bewildered, which you might think is not that uncommon, but I'm feeling bewildered because Don, our resident horsepower guy, is... I mean, how much does this thing make, Don? I mean, you're starting to sound like you really like it, but it makes what?
It makes a whopping 77 horsepower. I know. And yet, you know
What's come over you?
It's a good chunk less than the 850, even though they're the same motor. But I prefer this one to the 850.
Because?
Because, I'll tell you why. The 850 is sort of very off-road kind of focused. The 750 is not. Earlier in the year, I rode both. We had the South African launch. I rode both. One day we rode the 850. Next day we rode the 750. And to be honest, I enjoyed the 750 more.
First of all, how much does it cost?
Price... that is a bit of an issue. 183,450 Rand.
Wow.
Okay, now hang on. Let's put it up against some other bikes. KTM 790 Adventure R is
the R version.
The R version. I'm going to go full spec here. Is 185,000 Rand. So pretty much the same price. The Triumph Tiger 800 is anywhere between 181 and all the way up to 199. So also similar kind of pricing. And I'm sorry, those are just better motorcycles.
Okay, so listen, I'm going to try and draw a conclusion to this. We're going to say, basically then, that the GS 750 is a pretty good motorcycle and you will enjoy it, possibly even over the long term. The one thing you can't afford to do, though, is compare it to anything else.
Well, that's a fantastic conclusion.
And on that note, I think we'll take a break. We'll be back in a very short while with a chat with a certain Troy Corsa.